Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is Monday, the 13th of September, 2021. These are the stories that we'll be discussing during the course of the show. We will begin with the just ended address of the President of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Dr. Arif Alvi, to the National Assembly. Of course, this was marking the fourth parliamentary year of the National Assembly. There was a lot of ruckus as far as the opposition was concerned, but nevertheless, the President talked about extremely important topics that concerned Pakistan's foreign policy, Pakistan's internal issues, the health issue, of course, COVID-19. Then he talked about the Afghan issue and, of course, the future and how Pakistan has been participating for the benefit of the Afghan people. He talked about the Afghan migrants and how Pakistan has also hosted the more than 3 million Afghan refugees in Pakistan. He talked about all the important topics that plague Pakistan internally and externally. This is going to be our leading story. Then we'll be talking about Pakistan that has delivered another, of course, plane that is full of items for food and other relief goods to Mazar-e-Sharif, and this happened on Sunday as the country, of course, continues its humanitarian assistance to its next door neighbor. This is not the first time that it has sent relief goods to its neighboring country. Pakistan believes and has been wanting to help Afghanistan all the way and in every manner whatsoever. Also, the World Food Programme has tweeted about the acute malnutrition levels in Afghanistan. Of course, they talk about 27 of 34 provinces that are deeply affected by malnutrition. The United Nations is also convening an aid conference in Geneva today, and the UNDP also says that 97% of Afghans are at risk of sinking below the poverty line. This is going to be our second story. Then our third story, ladies and gentlemen, is about Pakistan that has unveiled a dossier on war crimes, rights violations in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, who was there along with the National Security Advisor Dr. Moeed Yusuf and Federal Human Rights Minister Shiri Mazari, presented this detailed dossier on Sunday that gave a detailed account from the partition time till now, all the accounts of the barbarities that have been done by the Indian authorities on the hapless people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. This is going to be our third story. And finally, we'll be talking about Islamabad, that being the federal capital has become the first city in the country to achieve the milestone of having more than 50% of the eligible population that is fully vaccinated and 71% having received at least one jab. This was said by Mr. Asad Omar, who is the Minister for Planning, Development and Special Initiatives. And he said he also asked other cities to follow suit as far as the initiative that has been undertaken by Islamabad is concerned. These are the stories for today. Let's begin with our first story, our top story, the recently concluded address by President of Pakistan, Dr. Arif Alvi, marking the fourth parliamentary year of the National Assembly. Shabbir Ahmed Wahgra, our correspondent, joins us online. Shabbir, thank you very much to have joined us. Could you give us the important highlights of the address of the President of Pakistan?
Yes, as the President of Pakistan has addressed, and this marked the fourth parliamentary start of the fourth parliamentary year of National Assembly, and talking about the economic challenges during the last year, President noted during his address that world economies although shrank due to the negative consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, but due to Pakistan government's effective policies, Pakistan's economies perform much better compared to other countries. And also he said that Pakistan stock exchange has performed much better. Pakistan's stock exchange is considered as Asia's best performing market and world's fourth best performing market. And also President acknowledged that Pakistan's exports increased to $25.3 billion during 2021 financial year. And also he also said that the overseas developers and their confidence has also grown up, and due to the government policies, it has increased. Business confidence has increased to by 60%. And also talking about tax collection, the President has acknowledged that FBR has collected 18% more revenue during the last 1 year. And also, while talking about the growth, he said that 2.77% growth in agriculture it was recorded, and also 1.6% 2.7 million youngsters has been provided youth skill under the youth skill program. They have been provided different skill trainings. Also, President has acknowledged that under SARS program, 7 million women have been given 2,000 monthly stipend, which is helping these women. President also talked about other challenges like fake news and the consequences of fake news. Then President talked about foreign policy, that how Prime Minister Imran Khan, when he came to power, he said that he is the ambassador of Kashmir, and he has proved it through the fact that he has taken this, he has spoke about this Kashmir issue at all the global forums, and he has taken up this issue so effectively that no other Pakistan ruler before that has taken up. And then the President also talked about the fight, how Pakistan have fought fight against terrorism bravely, and also the challenges faced by CPEC from India, that India wants to sabotage CPEC from the since its inception. But this has strengthened Pakistan-China friendship more than ever. And also, President acknowledged that Pakistan as a host of 4 million Afghan refugees, and also played very important and vital role for Afghan peace process. Over 20 years, Pakistan's stance remained that there is no military solution to Afghan problem, which has been proven right now. And Pakistan also, President said that Pakistan providing relief goods to Afghan people, so that it's still standing with them at this time of need.
Well, thank you very much, Shabbir, to have talked to us and to have discussed in detail the different issues that were highlighted by the President of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Dr. Arif Alvi, during his address to the National Assembly, of course, marking the 4th parliamentary year of his government, that is the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf government. Let's go to our second story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns the dossier on a global comparison of Indian war crimes in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir that was presented by the Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi Sahab, and along with that there were also Shini Mazari Sahiba, who was present there, and Dr. Moeed Yusuf. More in the following report.
The terrorist propensities of regional pariah India are the colossal destabilizing tendencies in the strategic calculus of the region. Pakistan, as a responsible regional actor, has attempted its best to draw global attention towards Indian-sponsored terrorism, but so far international community has failed to hold saffron terrorist India accountable for its malicious activities. Besides perpetrating outrageous crimes against humanity in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the Hindutva regime of New Delhi has been playing role of spoiler in Afghanistan by harboring terror proxies to destabilize Pakistan. Islamabad presented a comprehensive dossier on war crimes, grave human rights violations in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, along with debunking Indian patronage and training of the militant Islamic State group. The joint press conference of Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, National Security Advisor Moeed Yusuf, and Human Rights Minister Shiri Mazari presented a 131-page document supported by audio and video footage and GPS data. The dossier vividly reflected the existence of Indian-funded and managed training camps for Daesh militants and atrocities committed by Indian military in Kashmir. Earlier in November 2020, Pakistan handed a detailed dossier of Indian terror campaign to United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, urging him to prevail on New Delhi to desist from its illegal and aggressive activities. Kulbhushan Jadhav, the serving Indian Army officer, had also confessed to a series of terrorist activities planned and controlled from Afghanistan. The irrefutable evidence presented by Pakistan should be examined seriously by the international community, and these new revelations now demand a robust response from the UN Sanctions Committee.
To talk more about this, Foreign Affairs expert Dr. Shabana Fayyaz joins us online. Dr. Sahiba, thank you very much to have joined us. You must have seen the dossier that is quite comprehensive as far as the Indian war crimes in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. And of course, there is a global comparison of that with the other conflicts, that is in Bosnia, that is in Rwanda, the scale of human losses, and so on and so forth. Do you feel that this time the message will get across? Because this is not the first dossier as far as the human brutalities in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. But this is a very detailed, with facts and figures, dossier that has been presented by the three eminent politicians.
Yes, Umar Khalid Saab, thank you for taking me in on this very important subject. I must say that this is not, as you have mentioned, is not the first time that Pakistan has very uncovered the deeply inflicted human rights violations by India in the Jammu and Kashmir. And unfortunately, it is again a test to the international community will and the implementation of UN resolutions, how to effectively check the fractured says or the duplicity of the Indian foreign policy or its internal security policy that they have been using in Jammu and Kashmir, and also extending its tentacles in Afghanistan as well.
All right. Now, Dr. Saiba, there are 3 chapters and 131 pages of this dossier that was, of course, revealed on Sunday. And the chapters talk about the war crimes by the Indian Army, its genocidal actions, and it talks about the disappointment of the Kashmiris and how the local resistance movement is being born. And then a 3rd chapter on how the UN Security Council resolutions and the international laws are being violated. When such an extensive detail is given as far as the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, and then there is a comparison that is made between that and Rwanda and Bosnia, do you feel that the details of this and, of course, what has been said by the 3 people needs to be or will be reflected upon by India, or it will be again negated by our not-so-friendly neighbor?
To tell you frankly, I think that Pakistan has always done his homework very well. And we have produced very thorough reports, as I've said earlier as well. But it's again, as you have mentioned, the big test is whether our hostile neighbor is going to heed to such accusations and would look inward to do the catharsis itself. Unfortunately, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but the fact of the matter is that the India has not registered the Islamabad's concern. At times it has registered, but most of the time it has backtracked from its original stance. This really explains the realism of the global politics or the political world that we are living in. I will say that unless the India is pressurized by its Western allies, specifically the US and other business partners from the US community, and even the Russia and others, only then it will heed to such Pakistan's cases. Otherwise, unfortunately, this report will be sidelined by the UN and the other sanctions committee. And of course, we have lobbied. Islamabad has very vigorously under the present government and also in the earlier parts, vigorously lobbied on Kashmir. But unfortunately, again, it is again the test of the will. But we must not also ignore that India can no longer continue to ignore Kashmir. It is tied up in Kashmir. And this is a fact that Pakistan continues to support morally the just freedom movement of Kashmir.
Dr. Sahaba, also, is it not because of the very fact that Pakistan is politically and morally supporting the movement, the indigenous movement of those in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, that India is leveling baseless allegations and is also, as per the latest report, say, training Daesh in India? Of course, there has been a report that has recently come out, and also the Foreign Affairs spokesperson has also talked about it. Do you feel these are not concerns that should be taken up by the international lobby?
You know, I frankly feel, Mr. Omar, that to say that Daesh is Indian creation will be stretching your imagination too far. If you read very carefully the origination of the ISIS and its move once they were uprooted from Iraq into the Afghanistan, it was very much used by the external factors, other global forces that were used against the indigenous actors. Now, in case of Afghanistan, what we have seen is that if the ISK was launched, that is the Khorasan province of the ISIS movement, and similarly there was another chapter, the IS Hind, so that was also active in case of India. But unfortunately, what has happened is that India and other hostile elements who are working against Pakistan interest and stability, they have been using these elements, disgruntled elements, to their own benefit. And some of them are also used against the China as well. By some, according to documented sources from Chinese perspective, by the Western sides, and also from our credible sources, they are being hired as, these people are the free mercenaries, and they are into this business of exploding, and so they have reached that edge. And then there is also some reports have indicated that the disgruntled factions of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and outlawed organization, they have also mingled up with the ISISK part. So whether, and some important point to remember is that they are also some of the agents, free lancers available to our hostile elements that are cashed upon by the hostiles forces and to inflict damage on, in case of Pakistan, CPAC, or any other parts.
All right. Let's revert to Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and talk about Shirin Mazari's comment while they were, of course, presenting this dossier. And she criticized the European Union as to why there is a duplicity of standards and why they are not issuing a statement on Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and India's annexation of the region. What do you have to say about that? Do you feel there is going to be a change at any moment of time, or do you feel this is going to be a status quo that will remain?
I really respect Dr. Mazari's opinion. In fact, she has been a senior colleague at my department at Qaid-e-Azam University. She has always been very clear-headed and very eloquent in her remarks, because she has very carefully said that this is something of a double standards. This is what I am referring to, the realism that is prevalent in the world. The global powers speak of human rights when it is in their favor, like what is happening in Afghanistan. Now they are worried about the few things, but they were not worried about the earlier, captions that were happening there. And so is the case in other parts of the world. So, of course, what I see is the trend mix of realism will continue. Of course, the important point is, if the West interests are collide with Pakistan, they will pay some of the heed to the Pakistan's concern. And in case of if you look into their history of Western or the US and other European elements, understanding vis-a-vis Pakistan's point of view on Kashmir is they're very receptive of what is going on in Kashmir and the gross human rights violations. And they're brilliant MPs, very dedicated and working on human rights chapters. They have time and again has aired that. But the fact of the matter is, those who make these strategic policies, they have not included them in the overall framing of their narrative vis-a-vis India.
Now, Dr. Saba, India has been the president of the UNSC in the month of August. Then also there is a certain tilt towards India by the important powers that be. And this was also something that was highlighted during the presentation of the dossier. This appeasement of India by the powers that be. Don't you feel this is creating a negative balance inside of this region, and which could have far-reaching consequences in the years to come, especially in context with Afghanistan?
Frankly, I see no surprise here. This trend has been continuing for long and decades long. It is just, if you are carefully reading the history of international politics, the fact is that India has always been supported by the West. And why? Because their size, its economy, its clout, and somehow they have picked India as to be a force to control or to contain China and others. So vis-a-vis Afghanistan, I will say that Afghanistan will remain an unstable area. And unfortunately, what we are seeing is, because of the lack of economic investment there or human development there, matrix of Afghanistan does not portray a very healthy future in the years to come.
All right, Dr. Sahaba also, Shamimud Qureshi Sahab, after the briefing, gave 5 important points and 5 demands. In fact, he said India should stop the human rights violations of the Kashmiris. Action should be taken against the perpetrators who have been highlighted in the dossier that was presented yesterday. Then an end to demographic change, an end to the military and digital siege, release of all the political prisoners. How probable are these demands to be accepted by India or the international community? Do you feel there could be some kind of a pressure put on India to accept these demands, or do you feel maybe nothing would happen?
I think if you use morality lens, that this is very, very, what our honorable foreign minister has said, that they're very just demands. But important point is who we are addressing. If it is if these demands are being addressed, or these points are being addressed to the Muslim world, it may get an opinion, positive opinion. If it is towards the domestic audience, obviously it is in line with the domestic feelings. If it is towards the Kashmiris across the line of control, it gels with their point of view. If it is with the Kashmiri diaspora living in the West and elsewhere, it gels with them. Now, if it comes to the India, with the civil society, the peace practitioners, it gels with them. Human rights practitioners, it gels. But what about
finally,
the
now
government?
let's talk of the final question, Dr. Saab. Okay, final question, Dr. Sahaba. International bodies, United Nations, OIC, there has also been that demand made by Shamimud Qureshi Sahab that they should be given access to Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, which they haven't been in the past. Do you feel this will happen? Because now he's referring to the United Nations, UNMOGIP. We know very well they have no office there. They haven't been allowed to gain access to that region. Whereas the Pakistani side of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, of course, it is openly given access to not only the foreign diplomats, but also the international organizations such as the UN. Do you feel this could pave the way for that?
Frankly, Omar, I don't feel that there is going to be a much positive signs coming up from even by the UN Security, unless the UN Security Council draws in another fresh movement, a fresh resolution and calls upon India to do something about it. But the fact of the matter is that apart from saying their serious points, they don't go beyond a certain limit. And if the UN Security Council itself is not in favor, the votes are not in favor of the Pakistan point of view, how you are going to translate it? The business will, as usual, continue, and unfortunately, the Kashmiris will continue to suffer.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shabana Fayyaz, foreign affairs expert, who have joined us and to have talked to us about this very important dossier, which is, of course, another in the addition of all the important dossiers that have been sent to international organizations in the past, as well as far as the barbarities on the hapless people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. We will continue to highlight it. We have been highlighting it. We just hope somebody in the West, somebody who has the power to put pressure on India, listens to that. Let's come to our last 2 stories, ladies and gentlemen. The first is, of course, Pakistan that has been continuing to help in a humanitarian method to its neighbor Afghanistan, and another consignment of relief goods to Mazar-e-Sharif was delivered on Sunday, as the country, of course, continues its humanitarian assistance to its next door neighbor. This is not the first consignment. In fact, this is the 4th consignment. As well as a tweet that has emanated from the World Food Programme that talks about the acute malnutrition in Afghanistan. It says there it has reached emergency thresholds in the 27 of the 34 provinces. Almost 1/2 of the children under 5 and 1/4 of the pregnant and breastfeeding women need life-saving nutritional support over the next 12 months. At the same time, the United Nations is also seeking over $600 million to avert Afghanistan humanitarian crisis. There is a meeting that is going to be held today to discuss that and to collect as many funds as possible to help the people in Afghanistan. Also, there is a report by the UNDP that says that 97% of Afghans are at risk of sinking below poverty line, and there it gives facts and figures as far as that is concerned. So, of course, a lot of question marks are raised by the international bodies as far as the humanitarian issue in Afghanistan is concerned. Let's hope that the whole world body unites as one and helps Afghanistan to strengthen itself economically and on the humanitarian level. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk about COVID-19 and Omar Sahab, who has said that the city should administer the second dose of COVID-19 at the earliest. He gave the example of Islamabad. He said that the federal capital has become the first city in the country to achieve the milestone of having more than 50% of the eligible population that has had both the jabs of different vaccines that are available in Pakistan, and you know that there are different varieties of the vaccine that have been available at different times for different population. And of course, he said that 71% have at least had one dose of the vaccine taken to date. And he asked all the other cities also to follow suit and to work around that and to make Pakistan a COVID-free nation, and that is only possible if the vaccines are given to all the population and both jabs are given and are taken by all the people. Also, as far as the records are concerned, 2,988 cases in the last 24 hours, that has been revealed by the NCOC. The percentage of positivity is 5.32. This is the ratio of the positivity ratio that has also been revealed by the NCOC, and less than 300,000 cases since July 24. That was also told by the August organization. So of course the important thing is follow the SOPs, keep yourself vaccinated at the earliest, get yourself vaccinated at the earliest, and even if you are vaccinated, do not stop following the SOPs, because there are different variants like the Delta Plus or the Mu variant that are of course emerging and have caused havoc, especially the Delta and Delta Plus. So we need to be extremely careful and vigilant as far as our surroundings are concerned and also ourselves are concerned. We have a lot of elders, children in our neighborhood, in our households. We need to not only take care of ourselves but also of them. Be aware, or else the pandemic will reach all the households before we know it. Till then, of course, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news stories and segments that matter to you, to us and to Pakistan. Allah Hafiz.